What's up, fellas? So today we're trying to answer the age-old question of, do women like muscle? Now you might be saying, okay, of course women like muscle. Well, there's a little bit more nuance than that. So first we're going to go through some physiques and ask the question, is this physique, not the person, not the man, we're talking about the muscle, is this physique attractive to most women? So this first physique, I would say overall, no. Most women are not going to find this physique attractive. Now you might say, oh, well, it's because the body fat percentage is too high. Well, what about this physique? Which I'm sure a lot of people recognize, but again, it's not about the man, it's about the muscle. This guy has very, very low body fat, a ton of muscle, so surely all women are going to find this super attractive, right? Right? Well, okay, so you say, okay, it's too much muscle. What about this physique? It's a little bit less muscle. Still low body fat, but, slightly less muscle. Still a lot of muscle, though. I would say most women are going to find this still pretty overpowering. It's a lot of muscle. It's a lot of muscle. All right, well, let's go the other direction. What about this kind of physique? Is this going to be attractive to most women? I would say no. This is probably not enough muscle. They could do with a little bit more. They gotta bump things up a bit.
Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Same thing with someone who is skinny fat. You are lacking muscle and you have too much fat, and I would say this is also not going to do particularly well in the marketplace. All right, what about a physique like this? Decent amount of muscle, quite a lot, not a huge amount, not overpowering, and like no body fat at all. Is this going to be attractive? I would say overall, probably not. What about this physique? Now we're talking pretty good amount of muscle, but nothing overpowering. Fairly lean physique, but nothing completely shredded, not absolutely peeled. And I would say roughly this point is going to be the sweet spot for the majority of women. You have a decent amount of muscle, you've clearly seen a weight in your life, you're fairly lean, you're not overweight, you're not carrying around a bunch of body fat, but you're not completely peeled either. Now, it's important to note, and if you've been consuming a lot of Manosphere content, you might want to sit down for this, get a glass of water or something, hydrate yourself for this big statement. Women are actually people.
The audience knows the truth.
Yeah, they're actually people as well. And so that means that, like all people, they actually have personal preferences. Yeah, so some women like muscle more, some like it a little bit less, and you're going to have this whole big range on what each individual woman actually prefers. Yeah. But I think by and large, it's a pretty safe statement to say that most women like health. They're attracted to health. And men, we are attracted to health as well. We might not realize, oh wow, she looks this way, and therefore I like it because of these reasons, because of thousands and millions of years of evolution, but we are attracted to health. And so are they. And so if you're super skinny, that's not a great sign of health. If you are a 300-pound, 5% body fat mass monster, that is not a sign of health either, because you're going to be good at some things, like a bodybuilding competition, but really bad at a lot of other things, like running, jumping, functional fitness. And I've heard a lot of online social media content say that, oh, the standards are getting super, super high. You got to make 6 figures and have a sick figure in order to get slick fingers. But I'm not entirely sure if that's actually the case. I think most women just want someone who is healthy. They don't need some kind of Superman in order to be happy. That might be what is portrayed online, but it's probably not quite reality. And so as an economics major, I would just think of this as a curve that gets you diminishing returns, then flat returns, then negative returns. So if you're super skinny, building some muscle is actually very, very beneficial. If you are, 6 feet tall, 120 pounds or something, you're going to struggle, right? Because you just are going to look very weak. You're probably actually going to be weak, and you are not performing holistically in an optimal way. But after you've built, let's say a year of muscle, let's say you've built up, 15, 20 pounds, more muscle will probably help, but the returns are diminishing, and getting those diminishing returns is ever more challenging. And then at a certain point, it's kind of just going to plateau. Like going from kind of jacked to pretty jacked to really jacked, I don't think that's going to have a tremendous benefit, again, on average, because women, some women, their curves are different, right? They have different preferences. Some women are really, really into muscle, and other women, they genuinely prefer a more sleek look. And if you are struggling in the dating market as a young man, it's probably not muscle that is holding you back. It's probably just the fact that you're a young man. You haven't built up your body, but you haven't built up anything else as well. And there are other areas other than your physique that absolutely matter as well. And so you might say, oh, well, I don't want to lift weights too much. I don't want to gain too much muscle. It's gonna put me on that end of the curve. Well, it's really, really hard to get to that point as a natural lifter. In fact, it basically never happens. That really is only going to happen with anabolic steroids, which I will get to in a little bit. Believe that. Now, one quick thing I want to say is that people are going to point out dad bods. What about dad bods? Like, dad bods are all the rage. I see interviews with young, attractive women on the TV or the YouTube or wherever, and they say that dad bods, yeah, I love a good dad bod. I think there are a few things going on here. First, don't listen to what they say, look at what they do. Is she dating a guy with a dad bod? Probably fucking not. She's giving that answer because it's the PC answer. It's the agreeable answer. There are a hell of a lot of guys out there with dad bods that she might not want to offend. Now, according to Jordan Peterson, actually, women rank higher in agreeableness. There's your JP moment of the video. And so they just don't want to rock the boat. And so they're like, yeah, dad bods, great, fantastic. But then, you look at her track record and not a dad bod in sight. I don't know a single man who has had a dad bod and been in good shape who did better with a dad bod. That just doesn't happen. Okay? Again, it goes back to health. When you're in shape and you're taking care of yourself, and not just rotting away into the sofa with the Cheetos covered fingers, you're going to do better because you're taking care of yourself. And how can you take care of anyone else if you can't take care of yourself? By the way, this video is sponsored by Boostcamp. So they are an app where you can log your progress, which is absolutely essential. A lot of people don't even seem to keep training logs. They just sort of go in and just train by instinct, go by feel. That doesn't work particularly well. You want a hard set of numbers, and you can track that progression over time in order to get to your goals. It also has a bunch of different programs. I myself have 2 programs up on the app with a third coming soon. Whole bunch of programs from creators in the space: Bald Omni-Man, Alberto Nunez, Alexander Bromley. It's a who's who of badasses in the fitness industry, and all the programs are awesome, and they're all free. So check out Boostcamp. I will leave a link in the description. And once again, thank you to Boostcamp for sponsoring this video. What about steroids? Well, a lot of young men take drugs in order to build muscle to impress women, but you have to understand you are trading long-term health for short-term muscle. And for a lot of women, that is a giant red flag. If they actually like you, if they actually love you, if they want to be with you long-term, they're going to be thinking long-term. And if you're trading away that just for an extra few, pumps in the gym, big red flag. If a woman is like, he spends a lot of time in the gym, but he's just taking care of himself, he's healthy, like that's fine. He spends a lot of time in the gym and he takes a bunch of drugs, that's different. Never mind the side effects, the acne, the bloating, the hair loss, the skin texture changes. You look at Larry Wheels on and off. You're probably not going to be more attractive if you start taking a bunch of steroids. Muscle matters, but it doesn't matter that much to offset all of these drawbacks. And that's the idea where you build a bunch of muscle and you think you're going to get attention from women, and you just end up getting a bunch of attention from dudes. That's a real thing. That's a real phenomenon. Furthermore, women don't like muscle as much as men think they like muscle, right? So if the ideal physique for a man is like really, jacked up, super veiny, vascular, oh yeah, women are really going to be into this. They're no, they're not, it's too much. It's excessive. And again, this probably goes back to health. So there's this divide between what we think women want and what they actually want. And by the way, there's a divide going the other way as well. Women think often, this is kind of changing with culture, but women often think that men want, really, really slim physique, like a model in the 90s or something. No, we like a bit of thickness, right? Like, as long as it's in the right places, Next, I think there are some hidden benefits of muscle that are not often talked about. So over the past 9 years or so, I've put on about 70 pounds of body weight. I started at about 150 pounds, and I'm now up to almost 220. Not all of it is muscle, but I would say the majority of it certainly is. And yeah, people do treat me a little bit differently. So every man you meet, you size them up and they size you up. It's not necessarily like a negative thing, like, oh yeah, we're about to fight. I think it's just a natural thing that we do as men. Now, that doesn't mean if you're bigger, you're going to be able to win in a fight. That's not exactly how things work, right? The knowledge of how to fight and the skill of how to fight is way more important than how big you actually are. But I think there's just this monkey brain kind of thing that the bigger man does have a slight edge in some ways. And there is something to being the best built man in the room. Like, you walk in the room and everyone's like, all right, like, okay, that's a thing. And there is something to that. And then, you're at a social event and, someone's like, oh, he's like, oh, so you lift weights, like, and suddenly, like, there's a sense of status around that. There's a sense of authority around this thing that other people might want or be interested in. And that sense of status is just as important as the actual physical muscle tissue. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that if you build muscle, you are better than other people, but you might be perceived that way, and you don't need to correct them. I also think that just the process of building the muscle is just as important as the end result. Learning how to troubleshoot the process, just getting better at it over time, being consistent, being disciplined, working hard at something that shows visible, tangible results is something that is extremely important. So it doesn't even need to be lifting weights. It could be building a business, it could be building a social circle, it could be just being a good friend or a good neighbor or anything else, but something that you can work towards and you see yourself getting better over time is going to be a sense of confidence, something that, wow, I can put in the work and I see the result. I put in the work and I see the result, and I think that can have ripple effects in other areas of your life. However, I do think that there are opportunity costs. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. Actually, you can't do anything. Some things like, oh, I couldn't be in the NBA or something, right? Like, but you can do a lot, but you can't do everything. However, you probably don't want to invest all your money in one pursuit because, again, you get diminishing returns, and just women often like a more holistic man, a guy who doesn't just have muscle, but, he has his finances in order, he has a good social circle, he's knowledgeable, he can converse on a wide variety of topics, and if you spend like 8 hours a day in the gym, first of all, it's dumb, and it would probably actually be bad for your results. But let's say you're doing everything you can to build muscle. That is the entire focus of your life, to the detriment of everything else. That's probably not a great option. And so if you're a young man or an old man struggling in the dating market, well, building muscle can maybe help, but you should probably be doing other things as well. Again, character creation, it's like that thing where if you max out one stat, you don't have any room for anything else. You should spend a decent amount of time building your body, but build other areas as well. So things like fashion, grooming, things I know nothing about. People are like, any beard tips? What do you mean beard tips? What do you do for your beard? I don't shave. That's the first and only step. So I actually take a razor and then I throw it in the fucking garbage. Next, part 6, which muscles are most attractive to women? So you ever been watching football with your girl and she seems strangely interested in the game, and you both know she doesn't know the rules, but she's fascinated by something on the screen. Glutes.
Look at the lower body, just huge. With that lower body, it's unbelievable. Look at the body. Look at that bubble butt.
Glutes. She doesn't know the rules, but she got the drools for the tight ends. Awful. Also, a shoulder to waist ratio. I was watching Lex Fridman podcast. David Buss was on there a while back.
What muscle group is the most important to work on? Do women care about biceps is what I'm asking.
In terms of physical appearance, shoulder to hip ratio So relatively wide shoulders relative to hips is one. Women tend to prefer men who are physically fit and well toned, but not muscle bound. When Arnold Schwarzenegger was doing the Mr. whatever it was contest, you see women don't find those attractive, the extremely muscle bound guys.
And to me, this makes sense because it does go back to health. If you have a very, very wide waist, you have a big old belly, that's a sign of poor health, right? All that visceral fat, really not going to be great, a lot of inflammation. You're going to die from that. And then having broad shoulders, again, partly genetic, partly structural, but it's a sign that you have built up your upper body. You know, I guess you could build up your chest and traps only and not your delts, but generally speaking, your shoulder mass is going to be just pretty well correlated with your overall upper body muscle mass. So just generally speaking, if you have a fairly narrow waist, again, it doesn't have to be like a 28-inch waist, it just has to be not fat, and then you have decently broad shoulders, it's a sign you have not a lot of fat and a decent amount of muscle, and so you are healthy, you're in shape, you could fight, you could do other things as well. Now I also have to put in a good word for neck, forearms, and back. Something about just having a big back, man. It just looks right. I mean, I'm not a woman, but I appreciate a good back, and so do they, I think, usually. But I would say it's more of an overall holistic physique kind of thing. You know, I think most women are not like, you know, I love a man with a good serratus. You know, he's got that vastus intermedialis. You know, it's the serendipitous maximus.
It's got an almost improvisational tone.
Those are the muscles that I really like on a man. No, it's more about, you know, you're not fat, you have a decent amount of muscle spread throughout your body, and you're pretty much good to go. You know, it's not like I'm doing this exercise for the women, man. You know, that's why I do this one. They love those lateral delts. Finally, you should train for you. A lot of men get into the gym because of women, and I think that's fine. But what happens when that carrot is taken away? Incentive, that's a better word, is taken away. Well, you know, okay, now you're in a relationship, now you're married, you don't have any reason to lift, you let yourself go, but that's part of the reason why she got with you, and now your perceived value is lower, and so, you know, bye. And so if you are constantly trying to seek the validation of women because that's the only reason you lifted, and you see a chick across the gym and you're like,
My time has come.
no, like, you're going to seem desperate because you are desperate. So lift for you, motherfucker. So maybe some controversial takes in this one. If you agree, if you disagree, if you think I'm a giant idiot, feel free to write in the comments. If you have thoughts on this one's going to be a juicy one in the comments section, I think. So leave your thoughts down below. And if you want to support the channel, you can check out my books. They will help you a lot in your fitness journey, which, you know, might help you with women, but I would look at that more as a byproduct rather than a goal. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.